Hi, I'm Steve. You can call me Steve. I eat a lot of grains and vegetables. Getting those products from fields to grocery stores is a complicated process, and there are inefficiencies at every stage, starting right in those fields. You want to remove weeds from your crop because they compete with the food plants for resources, and you'd have to separate them out during the harvest if you didn't get rid of them earlier. In centuries past, weeding was done by hand, which was back-breaking labor. During the 20th century, a variety of chemical herbicides were developed, including one called glyphosate. Let me make it perfectly clear. There's a difference between the science regarding one chemical and the business practices of the company that makes that chemical. I am not defending or even discussing Monsanto's behavior as a corporate entity. Much. This video mostly isn't about the soups in the boardroom, it's about the lab coats in the research lab. Glyphosate, marketed as Roundup, is a herbicide, a chemical that kills plants. It's used to selectively kill weeds in farmers' fields while not touching the crop. This doesn't work for every crop we grow, so some genetically modified crops have had added Roundup resistance spliced into them. This combination of scary chemicals and scary genetic manipulation has hit a lot of buttons in the public's consciousness and made glyphosate a highly visible source of controversy. Glyphosate has been used since 1973 and was produced under patent by the Monsanto Corporation until 2000, at which point the patent expired. Since then, it's been produced by a wide variety of manufacturers, but Monsanto still gets all the attention. The Monsanto company was acquired by Bayer in 2018, and the Monsanto name was retired due to all the controversy surrounding it. Glyphosate safety has been under investigation for a long time. In 1986, it was classified as possibly causing cancer, because the results at that time weren't enough to definitely say it didn't. More tests were done, and by 1991, it had been conclusively demonstrated that glyphosate does not cause cancer. Dozens of research and regulatory agencies in a bunch of different countries have confirmed this. There is a single agency, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, that classifies it as probably cancer-causing. This means that there's still limited evidence of cancer in humans, but strong evidence of animal cancer. However, animal testing methods tend to give false positive because they feed massive doses of the substance in question to lab rats that have developed a genetic predisposition to get cancer. The difference in opinion between this one agency and everybody else is due to differences in data interpretation and not a slam dunk conclusion. Apart from cancer, there's also the issue of glyphosate's general toxicity to humans and to the environment. Its harmfulness to humans and other mammals is quite low, and the same is true for most other organisms. Obviously, it's supposed to kill weeds, but it's also got some unwanted toxicity on aquatic creatures as well in shallow waters. It's supposed to be used only on land, but pesticide runoff is a thing that's been well known for years and is not unique to glyphosate. The opposition to glyphosate generally comes from people who don't understand the science and refuse to learn it. Dozens of studies confirming its non-cancerous status hasn't stopped anti-glyphosate groups from latching on to that one result that kind of supports their conclusion and running with it. These groups use tactics of misinterpretation, fear-mongering, and outright lies to push their agenda. A couple of these groups commissioned lab tests on various foods, looking for leftover glyphosate, and a bunch of them came back positive. The tests were done by an accredited lab, so I'm inclined to believe the numbers. What I don't believe is the interpretation of those numbers done by these activist groups. First off, about half the results that came back were right at the limit of what the analytical instrument can see, so they're suspect. Secondly, these groups claim that the safe limit for glyphosate is 0.1 parts per billion, which is ridiculously low. As far as I can tell, this number was pulled out of thin air, because the exposure limit recommended by legitimate environmental agencies is 10,000 times higher than that. Remember, dose makes the poison. Everything can be toxic at a high enough dose. Roundup is safe for humans at the concentrations used in agriculture, but you still don't want to drink it. But what about that jury that decided Roundup caused that groundskeeper's cancer? It's a jury. They're not scientists. They're 12 average people who don't have the educational background to make that decision. The legal system is completely ill-equipped to decide what is scientifically correct. That's why we have scientists. That's glyphosate. It's a commonly used herbicide that isn't as remotely harmful as the activists would have you believe. Is there room for improvement? Of course there is. It's always worth being concerned about things that are sprayed indiscriminately on our food crops and the effects they have on our health and the environment. But that concern needs to be tempered with facts and not hysteria. The public's fear of glyphosate hasn't been helped by Monsanto's tendency to behave exactly like the cartoon stereotype of a shady corporation. While Monsanto hasn't been suppressing studies that claim to show glyphosate is truly harmful, because there aren't any, its other activities have given the perception that it would do such a thing. The indiscriminate lawsuits haven't helped either. Now that it's been bought by another company, only time will tell if the new owners will be less evil. Thanks for watching. I've been Steve.